Okay, so what is one of the, like, the formal word we used for multiplication? It starts with a P. Do you remember? Good. Product. And how about for division? Started with a Q. Quotient. Very good. Okay. So what we're going to talk about today is, especially when we're dealing with negatives, and I think it was Aiden who remembered the other day that a negative times a negative, what happens there to the sign of that? It becomes a positive, okay? And so what happens is when you have an even number of negatives, that's a number symbol, by the way. Did you know that? I know it's a hashtag, but it's also a number symbol. Okay. Even number of negatives and this is with multiplying or dividing. Multiplying and or dividing by an even number of negatives gives a positive result. So if you do have a highlighter, the first thing we're going to say is that this is for multiplication or division. What do I mean by even? What is, when we're talking about numbers, what kind of numbers are even numbers? Give me some examples. Is 5 an even number? No. 4 is an even number, or 2, or 6. So what I mean is when you're looking through the entire problem and it's all multiplication and division, if you see an even number of negatives, what's going to always happen is that's going to give you a positive result. Because really what that means is the opposite of a negative. And if you keep doing that process over and over, every time you get 2 of them together, that makes the result positive. So let me give you 2 examples for that. We're going to do 3 times a negative 2, or you might see parentheses sometimes, divided by a negative 1. Okay, so let's highlight the numbers that are negative. Negative 2 and negative 1. How many things is that? 2. Is that an even number? Yes. So because of that, that means the whole thing, opposite, opposite. Opposite, opposite means it's going to be opposite of a negative or positive, and then I can just go forwards. So if I know it's going to be positive, 3 times 2 is 6. 6 over 1 is just 6. Let's try it with another one. Negative 8 times negative 5 times negative 1 over negative 2 times 1. All right, let's highlight and count them up. We got 1, 2, 3, 4 negative numbers. Is that an even number? Yes. That means the result is going to be positive. Okay. And here's why. Now it's negative. Then I go here, it's the opposite of a negative, which is positive. Now it's negative again, but now it's the opposite of a negative. Instead of having to think through that every single time, if you remember the even thing, then it's simple. Even number of negatives, results is positive. What do we get on top? 40? Isn't 8 times 5 times 1 40? And on the bottom? Just a 2. We know all of the negatives have canceled out at this point because of this rule. And what's 40 divided by 2? 20. Okay. So what do you think then I should also talk about? What if there's an odd number of negatives? All right. So if there is an odd number of negatives, so this time, when multiplying or dividing, so these rules apply for both, when multiplying and or dividing by an odd number of negatives, the result is negative. Okay, I'm going to highlight some key things here. First of all, this is for both multiplication and division. We're talking about an odd number of negatives. So we're counting them up, and if we see an odd number of negative numbers, then the result is negative. So let's try negative 1 times negative 1 times 4 times a negative 3. Okay, so we count up. How many do I have? 3, right? By the way, do you see how I have multiplication signs there? Can't I also have parentheses? That would mean you would see it with parentheses possibly. So negative times negative times negative. This is negative, now it's positive, now it's negative again. Or just remember the rule. Odd number, it's going to be, the result is negative, and then just multiply through. 1 times 1 times 4 times 3 is going to be a negative 12. All right, last example. Did anyone ever teach you this about the little trick with the even odd thing? They did it?
The teacher was talking about it.
What's that?
The one teacher understood it, she was talking about it.
She was talking about it, yeah. But before in your math classes, they didn't. I like that trick because to me, then it's like I don't have to keep flipping. Wait, where am I again? Negative, positive? Then just know. Even number, it's going to end up being positive. An odd number of negative, it's going to end up being negative. All right, so negative 24 over 6 times negative 3 times negative 1 times 2 equals negative 24. How did I get that? Well, I'm going to highlight again. Can somebody tell me how I got that? Like, what was going on here? So first of all, negative, 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 I knew the result was going to be negative. What's 24 divided by 6? Isn't that just 4? Times 3 is 12. Times 1 is still 12. It's the 24. That's how I got that.